Welcome back to my YouTube channel. If you are new here, my name is Heather Lewis, and today we are going to be making over another dresser. Today's dresser is a 5-drawer tall boy dresser, and I really am excited to make over this piece, especially because of these unique knobs. I know you're either gonna love them or hate them because they're so unique, but I think we can really spruce it up and make it go with the piece more. Like with all flips, I always start with taking off the hardware, so we're gonna go ahead and do that now. Today I'm going to be using my Hercules drill to take off the hardware. It is older and I'm surprised that it's really stuck on there still, so I do need a drill for this piece. Usually some of these older pieces, the hardware will be really loose already, so I can use my hands. But today we do need a drill. The screws are pretty old, so I am gonna be using this flathead type bit. I don't have to use this bit often, but it is nice to have when it comes to some of these older pieces like this. Okay, so I've only gotten one piece of hardware off at this point, and I wanna show you guys this because I've never seen hardware so dirty before. I mean, we all know that hardware is dirty, but this, I think, takes the cake. So all of this in here is dust. And so obviously before we do anything else with this hardware, it is gonna need to be cleaned off because we can't leave this. This is really, really gross. As I moved down the dresser, taking all the hardware off, the hardware just got dirtier and dirtier, and it made me really think that these pieces of hardware have never been taken off before. You can see right there, like it's getting a little worse, but trust me, it just got so much worse, and the dust was just collecting everywhere. So I didn't end up filming how I cleaned them, but really I just filled my sink up with warm water and some soap and just kind of scrubbed it with a scrub brush. That really got all of the dust out, and it also got some of the grime off just from it being such old hardware. But really I had to get rid of the dust. The dust was even on the dresser like that. There was just so much of it. Now that all the hardware is taken off, the next step is going to be cleaning, and clearly from the hardware it was very dusty, so I'm assuming that this piece has not been cleaned or even wiped down in a very, very long time. So I'm really gonna take my time cleaning this piece inside and out. I like to use Dawn dish soap with warm water and a microfiber towel. However, I don't have any microfiber towels right now, so I'm just gonna use an old cloth and this will do just fine. So we're gonna avoid that by rinsing everything down. After I've cleaned it all off, I want to make sure to go back and rinse everything with just water because you don't want any of that soap residue left behind. It can show up in your paint. Now that cleaning has been done, it is time to sand, and I have been doing a lot of hand sanding recently, but finally we have a project where I need to pull out my sander and use this because it would just be so much work to hand sand what needs to be sanded on this dresser. The surface is very rough. There are just about no smooth spots on this piece, so the objective here is to, of course, give it a scuff sand so that the paint will adhere to it, but also try to smooth out this surface on practically every spot on the dresser. Although I do have to be really careful with the top because the top is not solid wood. It does only have a veneer, and I don't want to sand right through that. Now I'm gonna make sure to put on my respirator so that I don't get all of this dust in my face. It's really not good for your lungs. I honestly don't use it as often as I should, but for this project, I am putting it on. This respirator that I have is actually really affordable, and I'll leave a link to it in my description box down below if you want to go ahead and try it out. So I'm going to take my time with 120 grit. This is a medium grit, and I think it'll be perfect for the top of this piece as well as the body, the drawers. Everything needs a good sand because it's all rough. As I just mentioned, the plan was to only give it a scuff sand and smooth out the surfaces as much as possible, because I did mention that most of the surfaces were really rough, and for the body, that is what had happened, but you will soon see it was much different for the drawer fronts. As I started to sand those, its veneer started coming off super easily, like more easier than it really should have, honestly, and luckily there was solid wood underneath the veneer, and to my surprise, the original wood was actually super beautiful. I have seen this done before where manufacturers will throw on a veneer underneath really pretty wood, and I just don't understand why they do that, because if the original wood is super pretty, why take the time or money or whatever to cover it up? I guess that was just the thing back then, but there is no way, now that I've discovered this wood, that I'm going to cover it up with paint. I'm absolutely going to leave it. You can see right now a little bit how it's looking, but this is what it was looking like before with the veneer, and then this is after, and this is the original wood, and I think it's just so gorgeous. So I'm going to do that for the rest of the drawer fronts, and we're going to keep paint off of these. Alright, so we finally got all of the drawer fronts sanded down, and I'm really loving this original. The design of this wood, I think it's so pretty, and I'm thinking that honestly, I want to leave this and let it show in the final reveal of the piece. So now that these are done, all we have to do is sand the sides, and then we're done with sanding for the day. Alright, so at this point there is sawdust everywhere, so all we gotta do is clean this up. I'm gonna get a wet rag, wipe everything down, sweep the floor, wipe down the drawer fronts, and we can move into the next step. Okay, so the original plan was to paint this dresser in this beautiful green country chic color. I have not used country chic before, so I was really excited to give it a try. But after I sanded down the drawer fronts and revealed the beautiful wood that was underneath, I kind of switched plans a little bit, and we are going to be using Dixie Belle's chalk paint in Caviar. I just used this on a flip maybe a couple videos ago, and My plan is to leave the drawer fronts original. I don't want paint over them. I thought that it would look a lot better with black, so that it would be the original wood and a black combo. But if you guys are excited for me to try out Country Chic, make sure you subscribe down below because I will be doing a video in this paint very, very soon. Now, like I mentioned, we are not going to be painting the drawer fronts at all. So we are just gonna worry about the body of the dresser for now, which is perfect because I have just enough paint to be able to complete the body of the dresser. I have painted this color and this exact paint on every piece without using primer, and they have all turned out beautifully. So I'm going to skip the primer again and just go straight into painting the piece.
I've kind of decided that this is the area where I'm filling most of my pieces, but I did want to mention that, as you guys can see, the piece is probably rocking back and forth a little bit. The garage is very uneven. Just about every single piece that I've had over here rocks like this, and there's not much that I can do about it, but the dresser is very stable, and so is most of the other dressers that I work with on the usual.
Okay, so while the first coat of paint is drying on the dresser, we are going to kind of put the finish on these drawer fronts. Now, something that I don't do a lot is put wax on my pieces, but that's exactly what I'm going to do for these drawer fronts because the wax that I have is going to really darken up this wood and make it come alive. So that wax is Jolie's finishing wax in the color Clear. It's a protective top coat and it's, again, really gonna darken up this wood, and you guys are gonna see how amazing this looks as soon as I put it on.
I know a lot of people will apply wax in a circular motion. I did try that on the drawer front before I started filming, but I just liked it this way. I mean, I may be wrong for doing that, but it worked out really well for me. So I just did it this way. And make sure that when you are done putting wax on, that you do go ahead and buff it out a little bit later. You don't want any excess of that, otherwise it's never going to dry. And if you made it this far and you like this type of content, please make sure to go ahead and like this video and subscribe down below because it really does help small channels like mine grow. So thank you guys so much.
And just like that, all of the drawers are done. So as soon as the first coat dries on the dresser, we can go ahead and do the second coat.
It did only take 2 coats to reach full coverage on this dresser, and that is perfect because I don't think I would have had enough paint had I needed more coats, but I'm usually pretty good with 2 coats on any product from Dixie Belle, any of their paints. I'm always usually pretty good on 2 coats, so I knew I wouldn't have to worry about that, especially with not painting the drawer fronts. After the second coat was dry, I did go ahead and top coat the piece. I just put some polyacrylic in my now empty container of paint. That way I will have a little bit of paint in the polyacrylic. That'll just help with the cloudiness. Sometimes using polyacrylic with darker colors can be cloudy. And then I also mix my paintbrush in there, so now I really know there's some color in there, which is good. And I just apply it to the dresser as if it's another coat of paint. This will just really help protecting the piece and keeping it from any future damage. For the hardware, I did decide to spray paint them, and in just a few seconds you guys are gonna see what color and what the piece looks like in all. So I think now that the top coat is drying, it's about time that we get into the final reveal.